Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me today as we dive into a fascinating journey deep into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible possibilities that lie within everyday pocket change. Today we're going to explore a coin that most people overlook, a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands without thinking twice, yet a coin that carries the potential to become one of the most extraordinary and valuable discoveries in numismatic history. I'm talking about the 1965 Liberty Quarter, a Washington quarter that, in this special discussion, carries a hypothetical worth of $578,000 million due to extreme minting errors, unusual anomalies, mint mark mysteries, and the unique possibilities that collectors dream of finding. This is a journey into how a simple quarter can rise far beyond its face value, how mistakes during minting can create unimaginable rarity, and how one coin from 1965 could stand apart from millions of others because of a set of factors that align in ways that defy expectations. The 1965 Liberty Quarter holds a special place in American coinage. It marks the transitional moment when the United States Mint moved away from 90% silver coins to a copper-nickel-clad composition. For decades, quarters before 1965 were made of silver, but beginning in 1965, the Mint introduced the clad variety. Because of this major transition and because of the immense pressure on the Mint to produce large quantities quickly, 1965 quarters are famous for a variety of potential anomalies, and the combination of old techniques, changing metal compositions, worn dies, and hurried production creates the perfect breeding ground for errors. For collectors, this year is a treasure trove of possibilities. And when we imagine a coin so unique, so rare, so unusual that it stands alone among all others, the story of that coin becomes even more powerful. The 1965 quarter was produced without any mint marks. Mint marks were temporarily removed from coins between 1965 and 1967, mainly as an attempt to discourage hoarding by collectors who were desperately trying to save all silver coins they could find. With mint marks absent, all coins appear to be of the same origin. But in the world of errors and anomalies, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. There are coins from 1965 that appear to show traces of mint mark impressions, weak ghosted markings, or accidental leftover impressions from older dies. A quarter from this year could potentially have what looks like a faint D or S mint mark, perhaps because of a reused die, a polishing oversight, or a leftover punch from earlier production. Such an anomaly would instantly separate the coin from millions of standard examples and would make it incredibly valuable, especially if the phantom mint mark appears alongside other major errors, but mint mark anomalies are only one dimension of the rarity of a coin like this. Errors involving the metal composition might be even more dramatic. During the transition year, the Mint was still producing silver planchets for earlier coins, and some leftover silver planchets mistakenly entered the presses intended for clad quarters. A 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet is already an extremely valuable discovery in real life. But imagine a scenario where a 1965 quarter is not only struck on a silver planchet, but also struck with errors, distortion, doubling, incorrect die pairings, or transitional features that do not match the expected design of that year. A coin like that would be unmatched in rarity. Collectors would consider it a true miracle of minting, a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly that transforms a 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Another possibility involves wrong planchet errors, where the quarter is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. For example, imagine a 1965 quarter struck on a nickel planchet, appearing slightly smaller, slightly lighter, with less detail and a strange metallic tone. Or even more astonishing, one struck on a cent planchet, creating an unbelievably unusual combination of imagery and incomplete strikes. Such a coin would look like a distorted, partial quarter, with missing edges, incomplete letters, compressed imagery, and a completely wrong color. These wrong planchet errors are exceedingly rare and incredibly valuable, especially when involving transitional years like 1965. Then there is the world of doubled dies, among the most beloved and valuable types of coin errors. Doubled dies occur when the die itself is misaligned or doubled during its creation. When this die strikes the planchet, the coin will show doubling on letters, numbers, or major design features. A 1965 quarter with a strongly doubled die on the date, the word Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the eagle on the reverse would be recognized instantly by collectors as a major rarity. Double die coins have created legends in the hobby, from the 1955 double die cent to the 1972 double die and others. A deeply doubled 1965 quarter, especially with other errors present, could command astronomical prices, becoming one of the most desirable coins in the world. Strike errors also open up another dimension of rarity. Off-center strikes, broad strikes, multiple strikes, rotated dies, wrong die combinations, and partial collar strikes all create visual anomalies that set a coin apart from ordinary examples. An off-center strike where the design is shifted noticeably but still displays enough detail to identify the year and features creates immediate visual intrigue. A 1965 quarter struck dramatically off-center might show Roosevelt's face or the eagle shifted toward the rim, with blank metal filling the rest of the coin. A broad strike error without the retaining collar might produce a quarter that is wider and flatter than normal, with distorted edges. Even more dramatic is a multiple strike error, where the coin is struck twice or three times, producing overlapping imagery that looks like a ghostly or surreal version of the design. A 1965 quarter with such dramatic visual elements would be unlike anything intended by the mint and would instantly command attention among collectors. Die cracks, die breaks, cuds, and interior breaks also form part of the landscape of minting anomalies. As the die wears, cracks can appear across its surface, transferring raised lines of metal onto the coin. When parts of the die break off entirely, large blobs or missing sections appear on the coin, called cuds. A cud on the rim of a 1965 quarter, especially if large and dramatic, would instantly make the coin one of a kind. Combine that with a double die or off-center strike, and suddenly the coin becomes a numismatic marvel. Collectors love coins that reveal the story of the minting machinery's failure, because these errors represent fleeting moments in minting history. Each die crack, cud, and break reflects a moment when a tool failed, and for a brief instant, something remarkable was created. An even more unusual category involves die polishing errors, where someone at the mint attempted to remove marks from the die and inadvertently removed details from the design. This can lead to coins missing parts of lettering, details of the eagle, or other design elements. A 1965 quarter missing the tail feathers, missing sections of letters, or showing unusual smooth surfaces where details should exist becomes an immediate curiosity. When polishing combines with worn dies, faint doubling, or misalignment, the coin takes on a surreal appearance, something that collectors know cannot be replicated or repeated. Clad layer errors open another door into the possibilities of rarity. A clad coin consists of layers, and sometimes these layers separate or fail to bond correctly. A 1965 quarter that is missing part of its outer clad layer might reveal a copper base beneath, creating a striking two-tone appearance. A coin with peeling layers, bubbling layers, or incomplete bonding becomes an instant standout. Some coins appear reddish on one side and silver on the other, creating an unforgettable contrast that collectors immediately recognize as extremely rare. The edge of a coin also contains important clues. A 1965 quarter with a reeded edge error, such as missing reeds, partial reeding, or an edge struck twice, becomes a rare collectible. Edge errors often go unnoticed because most people do not examine coins closely, but collectors understand how unusual they are, especially on a transitional year quarter like this one. If such an edge error appears alongside a double die, off-center strike, or wrong planchet, the coin becomes extraordinarily valuable. Another fascinating aspect involves the idea of experimental planchets and transitional blending of metals. During the years when the mint shifted from silver to clad compositions, experiments were conducted to test new metal blends. Some planchets that were experimental might have mistakenly entered circulation presses. A 1965 quarter minted on such an experimental planchet would look subtly different in color and tone, perhaps darker, lighter, or unevenly colored. Sound tests would reveal differences as well. A coin like this would be priceless to collectors due to the mystery of its origin and the impossibility of finding another like it. My dear friends, now again we dive into one of the most astonishing and captivating stories from the world of rare American coins, a world filled with unexpected discoveries, mysterious minting anomalies, and treasures hiding in plain sight. Here we are exploring a coin that has stirred more curiosity, more speculation, and more fascination than almost any other modern coin from the last 50 years. This is the story of the Liberty Quarter Dollar from the year 1974, a coin with an ordinary face value of just 25 cents, yet a coin that, under extremely rare circumstances tied to errors, minting mistakes, and unexplained mint mark variations, has been associated with a staggering estimated worth that goes beyond imagination. We are talking about a theoretical and sensational valuation of $569,000 million, a number so massive and so far beyond anything normally associated with modern American coins that it becomes almost mythological. And today we're going to unfold every layer of this legend, every detail of why collectors whisper about the 1974 quarter as if it were a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered, and every reason why this coin continues to capture the attention of both experts and casual collectors. The journey into this extraordinary coin begins by recognizing that not all coins are created equal. Even when millions of pieces roll off the minting presses, the smallest deviations in the minting process can create unique specimens that stand out sharply from the rest. When the United States Mint produces coins, it follows strict production protocols, but even with the most advanced machinery, the tiniest mistakes can lead to anomalies that later become incredibly valuable. In the case of the 1974 Liberty Quarter Dollar, collectors have long suspected that certain coins from this year slipped through production carrying errors so rare and so unusual that the idea of an astronomical valuation starts to make sense within the numismatic world's fascination with rarity, uniqueness, and historical mystery. When we look into the minting environment of the early 1970s, we begin to see why such anomalies might have occurred. During this period, the mint was dealing with evolving technology, fluctuating metal resources, and a growing national demand for circulating coins. The transition away from silver earlier in the decade had already caused confusion and experimental production runs, and even by 1974, the mint was still adjusting to long-term changes in materials and processes. Amidst all this activity, errors were more likely to occur. Dies wore down faster than expected, mint mark punches were being adjusted and repositioned, and planchets of various compositions sometimes remained in storage longer than intended. These environmental factors made 1974 a prime year for unexpected coin varieties. One of the earliest mysteries connected to the 1974 quarter revolves around mint mark abnormalities. Mint marks are supposed to follow consistent size, shape, and position standards. However, collectors have reported finding 1974 quarters with mint marks placed slightly higher or lower than normal, tilted at unusual angles, or struck with inconsistent depth. Some coins appear to have mint marks that are doubled or show faint traces of secondary impressions. Others show mint marks that do not match expected size specifications for that year. Still others show no mint mark at all, despite appearing to originate from facilities that should have used them. These inconsistencies, though often subtle, form the foundation of a much larger mystery, but mint marks are only the beginning. Perhaps the most exciting and compelling element of the 1974 quarter story involves the possibility of wrong planchet errors. A planchet is simply a blank piece of metal on which the coin is struck, and most modern quarters are struck on copper nickel-clad planchets. But during periods of production transition, it is entirely possible for stray planchets from older batches or different denominations to slip into the presses by accident. Reports from collectors suggest that some 1974 quarters may have been struck on leftover silver planchets from earlier years, or even on foreign planchets the mint produced around the same period for international use. A single verified example of a 1974 quarter struck on silver or an unexpected alloy would transform it into one of the rarest modern coins ever discovered. Many collectors claim to have found 1974 quarters with unusual coloration, strange weight, or an unexpected ring when tapped. Some of these coins display pure white luster reminiscent of silver, while others lack the copper-colored edge that is characteristic of modern clad quarters. Such specimens raise the tantalizing question: did a few silver or foreign planchets accidentally get mixed into the 1974 production line? If so, the coin struck on them would be extraordinarily rare, potentially worth astonishing sums. Then there is the question of die errors, which can dramatically increase a coin's rarity and value. Die errors occur when the dies that imprint the design onto coins become damaged, misaligned, or improperly prepared. Some 1974 quarters show signs of double dies, where the design appears slightly shadowed or doubled. This can happen in the date, the lettering, Liberty's facial features, or the eagle on the reverse. Other coins appear to have been struck off-center, with parts of the design missing or pushed too close to the rim. Some show broad strike errors, lacking a proper rim entirely. There are also rumors of partial collar errors, where the coin expands oddly during striking, leaving unusual edge distortions. Each of these errors, even on their own, can turn a common quarter into a significant collectible, but where things become truly fascinating is when collectors discuss the possibility of combination errors. A coin that exhibits two major errors at once, a wrong planchet and a double die, for example, almost always commands massive valuations. But a coin with 3 or even 4 simultaneous errors is nearly unheard of, and because of this, collectors have speculated that if a 1974 quarter were to be found with multiple significant errors combined, its value could reach into mythic territory. A coin that carried a wrong planchet strike, double die features, mint mark anomalies, and striking misalignment all at once would be unlike anything ever seen in the modern U.S. mint era. The belief that such a coin might exist fuels excitement around the 1974 quarter every year, but why has this particular coin been associated with such a staggering valuation, one that reaches far beyond anything seen even in elite auctions? That answer lies not only in the theoretical rarity of the coin but in the culture and psychology of high-level collectors. In the world of rare collectibles, value is driven not just by material worth but by prestige, exclusivity, and the deep emotional desire to own something incomparable. Legendary coins are treated like artwork, like historical relics, like cultural treasures. When a coin becomes the subject of mystery and myth, collectors become more driven to possess it. Speculative valuations often emerge not from actual sales but from hypothetical competition among collectors who want to claim ownership of a coin so rare and so mysterious that it becomes the centerpiece of a world-class collection. For many collectors, the idea that there might be a single 1974 quarter out there with a perfect storm of errors transforms the coin into something like a holy grail. And in the arena of private collectors, especially wealthy ones, hypothetical valuations can skyrocket. While no quarter has ever sold for hundreds of billions, stories in the numismatic community often use large symbolic numbers to communicate the incomparability of a coin. This is where the $569,000 million value enters the conversation. It is not tied to traditional auction trends but to the belief that such a coin, with such extraordinary characteristics, would transcend the normal market and enter an entirely new category of value. This number represents more than just price. It represents possibility. It represents legend. It represents the belief that somewhere, perhaps hidden in a forgotten drawer, a dusty old box, or a jar of loose change, might exist a coin so rare that it becomes priceless. And that belief is what keeps collectors searching, debating, and analyzing every detail of the 1974 quarter. The mystery deepens when we examine the evolution of technology used to study coins. Modern microscopes, digital imaging, and advanced scanning technology have allowed collectors to see details that were invisible decades ago. Some enthusiasts claim that under high magnification, the 1974 quarter displays unusual die patterns, strange microscopic textures, or irregularities in the relief of certain letters or design elements. These peculiarities could be signs of early die stage anomalies, last stage wear, or experimental preparations by mint workers trying to refine the designs. Without complete documentation from the mint, much of which may have been lost, incomplete, or never recorded in the first place, collectors are left with questions that continue to fuel curiosity. Whenever a coin exists in a cloud of mystery, value tends to grow. History shows us that some of the rarest and most expensive coins were once ordinary coins that gained value because of a peculiar production process or an overlooked detail. The 1974 quarter fits this paradigm perfectly. Now in the third history we are going to explore a coin that millions of people have handled without ever giving it a second thought. A coin that has traveled through pockets, purses, streets, shops, vending machines, and glove compartments across the entire country. And yet, despite being so common and familiar, this same coin has captured the curiosity of collectors and dreamers because of the possibility that an extremely rare version of it, with extraordinary and practically impossible mint errors, could hold a value so massive that it defies all logic. Imagine holding a 25-cent coin that could, under the most unbelievable and rarest set of circumstances, be worth $564,000 million. The idea sounds unbelievable, almost mythical, and yet it fuels the excitement of collectors who continue to search for that one extraordinary piece that sets itself apart from everything else ever minted. Now dears, we're going to dive into the world of the 1979 Liberty quarter dollar, why it has fascinated so many collectors, what kinds of errors could theoretically make such a coin unimaginably valuable, and how the smallest imperfections in minting can change everything. When most people think of the 1979 quarter, they think of an ordinary coin from the Denver Mint. It was produced in enormous quantities, making it a regular part of daily commerce. There was no special design that year, no commemorative issue, no silver content, and nothing immediately unusual about its release. But as collectors know very well, it's not always the design or the year that makes a coin rare. It's the accidents, the mistakes, the unexpected events at the mint that create something unique. And while the vast majority of 1979 quarters are completely ordinary, the possibility of a once-in-a-lifetime mint error has always kept people looking. To understand why this coin can inspire such imaginative value discussions, we need to step into the environment of the Denver Mint in 1979. Imagine rows of enormous mechanical presses slamming down thousands of times per minute, striking metal with incredible force. Imagine the heat, the pressure, the noise that fills the air. Every coin produced passes through a complex and high-speed process. Blank planchets are fed into hoppers, transported by vibrating tracks, aligned by feeder fingers, and finally placed between two dies before being struck. When everything goes perfectly, the result is a flawless coin. But perfection is not always the outcome. Machinery wears down. Dies crack. Planchets jam. Feeders misalign. Unexpected foreign particles enter the system. And when all these things collide in a single moment, even for a fraction of a second, the coin produced becomes something entirely different. Collectors around the world know that mint errors come in many forms, and each type has its own level of rarity. There are mild errors that happen more frequently and dramatic ones that are incredibly rare. A coin with a slight misalignment might go unnoticed by most people, but a coin struck multiple times, struck on the wrong metal, or struck with a severely damaged die can become the centerpiece of a collector's dream. And when we talk about unimaginable values like $564,000 million, we're not talking about typical errors. We're talking about impossible combinations, the kind of error stacking that theoretically could happen if everything at the mint went wrong at the exact right moment. Let's begin by imagining one of the most dramatic possibilities: a wrong planchet strike. A quarter is supposed to be struck on a specific metal composition, weighing 5.67 grams. But what if, in 1979, a planchet intended for a different denomination slipped into the quarter production line? What if it was struck on a dime planchet, which is smaller? The result would be a quarter with missing edges, incomplete inscriptions, and unusual weight. Or what if it was struck on a copper penny planchet? The coin would appear reddish in color and much thinner than expected. These wrong planchet errors are already rare, but now imagine something even more unbelievable: a quarter struck on a foreign coin planchet intended for a South American, European, or Asian coin. The mint did produce foreign coins for other countries during various periods, and accidentally mixing planchets has happened before. A 1979 quarter on a foreign planchet would instantly become a highly desirable rarity. Now imagine that this wrong planchet coin wasn't just struck once. Suppose it was struck twice, or even 3 times, with each strike slightly rotated from the previous one. This would create overlapping designs, doubled images, distorted letters, and dramatic visual effects that make numismatists stare in disbelief. A multi-strike error combined with a wrong planchet is the kind of rare phenomenon that collectors only dream about. If such a coin existed, especially in pristine condition, it would be one of the rarest pieces ever discovered, but we can take this even further. Imagine that before the coin was struck, the die itself had already suffered damage. A die crack stretching across Washington's profile. A shattered die that causes raised lines and strange textures. A clash mark left when the obverse and reverse dies accidentally hit each other without a planchet, imprinting parts of the eagle design onto the front of the coin. These kinds of dramatic die failures are highly sought after in coin collecting. Clash marks, in particular, can create ghostly outlines of the reverse image on the obverse and vice versa. A 1979 D quarter with a major clash mark that clearly shows the eagle's wing on Washington's cheek would be a spectacular discovery. Now add in the mint mark. The D mint mark on a Denver coin can itself be a source of errors. While the process of minting had become more modern by the late 1970s, there were still rare cases of doubled mint marks, repunched mint marks, or mint marks positioned slightly off their intended placement. A repunched D, where the mint mark was stamped twice at slightly different angles, would already be a collectible error. But imagine that the mint mark was severely mispositioned, perhaps punched too high, too low, or too far to the left. Or imagine a double D mint mark where the previous impression is clearly visible beneath the final one. A dramatic mint mark error combined with a major die crack and multi-strike anomaly would push a coin into the territory of extreme rarity. To reach the fictional value of $564,000 million, collectors imagine a truly impossible combination. A 1979 D quarter struck on a completely wrong foreign planchet, featuring a dramatic 60% off-center strike. Struck twice or three times with rotated dies, containing an unusually large die crack running across the design, with visible clash marks, and topped off with a doubled or mispunched mint mark. And then imagine that somehow, after all these mistakes occurred, the coin slipped past the mint's inspection system, entered circulation, and survived more than 4 decades without being damaged, scratched, worn down, or bent. The likelihood of all of these things happening at once is so tiny that it feels like imagining lightning striking the same place 1,000 times in a row. And yet it is exactly this near-impossible combination that fuels the imaginative value discussion surrounding this coin. Another category of errors that collectors admire is the broad strike and the missing collar strike. When a coin is struck without the collar that normally holds it in place, it spreads outwards, creating a wider, flatter shape with unusual edges. The reeded edge disappears, replaced with a smooth, stretched look. A broad-struck 1979 D quarter is already interesting, but combine that with a wrong planchet, a severe off-center strike, and die damage, and suddenly the coin becomes a rare spectacle. And if such a coin survived in mint state condition, its theoretical value skyrockets. There's also the world of transitional errors, where a coin is struck using a metal composition from a previous or upcoming year. While the 1979 quarter did not have dramatic metal transitions, collectors love to imagine scenarios where a leftover silver planchet from the 1960s or an experimental planchet accidentally ended up in the minting equipment. A quarter struck on an unintended metal composition could attract massive attention. The idea of a 1979 D quarter minted accidentally on a silver planchet, producing a bright, mirror-like shine unlike anything expected from that year, would be extraordinary. And in the fictional scenario we explore, even this could be combined with other errors. Another fascinating error type is the partial brockage, where one coin becomes stuck to the die and imprints its reverse design onto the next coin struck. This creates a mirror image impression that covers part of the coin, producing an eerie, shadowy duplicate outline. A full brockage is extremely rare and visually stunning. Now imagine a full brockage on one side, combined with a double strike on the other side, and struck on a wrong planchet. The resulting coin would be so unusual that collectors might never have seen anything like it before. Now add another layer of rarity, survival in pristine condition.